Good morning.
Good morning.
Christ is risen. Thank you to Father Blizzard for letting us come and speak today. I have to tell you, well, first, I'm Jennifer Holmesy. I'm the new Director of Alumni Relations here at Cassidy. I also graduated in 2000, a while ago, from you guys. And this is the first time I've ever spoken in chapel, so bear with me. Today, I have the opportunity to introduce Ben May. Ben is a graduate of Cassidy School, class of '68. He's a recently retired executive from the Walt Disney Company, where he was Global Director of Corporate Alliances, responsible for the creation of multi-million-dollar relationships for Disney with corporations, institutions, organizations, governments, and countries. Based in Paris over the last 2 years, he was responsible for leading Disney's corporate alliance development in Europe, Russia, and the Middle East. Before he was recruited to Disney, Ben was vice president of 2 international wine companies responsible for strategic international account development. With a lifelong passion for fire service and meteorology, Ben has been a firefighter and fire commissioner, as well as a consultant providing strategic marketing leadership for the U.S. Fire Administration, fire protection publications of OSU School of Fire Protection Technology, and the National Weather Service, as well as for numerous metro fire departments across the country over the last 15 years. Ben is a Phi Beta Kappa graduate from the University of Oklahoma with a BA in Russian and Public Affairs and a master's degree with honors in Russian and International Communications from the School of International Service of the American University of Washington, D.C. Brace yourself. Ben is a member of the Society of Executive Fire Officers, the Institution of Fire Engineers of the United Kingdom, the Society of Fire Protection Engineers, and the American Meteorological Society. He is a recipient of the Oklahoma Creativity Prize for developing a 6-week global celebration of Oklahoma's 100th anniversary of statehood at Epcot at Walt Disney World Resort. He is conversant in Russian, German, Hebrew, and French. Ben and his wife Donnell, also class of '68, live in Windermere, Florida. They have 2 adult children, Nick and Caroline. Nick, a graduate of Vanderbilt University, is the lead litigator for the Federal Trade Commission in Atlanta. A graduate of RISD, Caroline is creative director of Marvel Studios of the Walt Disney Company in LA. Please join me in welcoming Ben May.
Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was, I don't know who that guy was. Having worked for the Walt Disney Company, I'm familiar with stories. That's kind of what we do. And I'm reminded of the story of 1001 Nights, the great Arabic story from which Scheherazade comes from. And there's one story you may all know about Aladdin's lamp. You know that memory, that Aladdin's lamp, you rub it, you hold it tightly, that lamp, but in your mind and in your heart. Bring it only out at special times, polishing it to a crystal shine, and then putting it back in that special mental drawer for a bit more thought, always with great care and pride. This is the memory I've been carrying of Cassidy for over half a century. It's more than a memory. It's a living template that has informed my life with certain values and guidelines, some of which I've failed to uphold, and others that have taken me places my imagination could never have begun to contemplate. And now circumstances have allowed me to share this memory with you personally this morning. The thought of sitting in chapel takes me back immediately to the time when I was one of you, right in my seat in chapel, as though it were yesterday. It is at Cassidy that my young adult life began, although I didn't know it. I met my wife at Cassidy. Father Benedict Barnes, my Cassidy advisor, married us right here in the chapel of St. Edward the Confessor 48 years ago. My mother's ashes are scattered over Cassidy Lake. I never take my Cassidy ring off my finger as a reminder of who I am and what I still can become. My experience at Cassidy imprinted my life and led me every step of my future. And now that my future has become my past, there will hopefully be more of a story to tell for the years I have left. But your story is just beginning, and that's why I'm telling you my story now. My hope for you, the students of Cassidy, is to understand how fortunate each of you are to be a part of the Cassidy family, and a family is what it is. It is a family dedicated to excellence, honor, integrity, kindness, and compassion. Each of you has a story, and much of it can begin here if you will embrace it. My story began in 1965 when I was 15 years old. My mother told me she thought it best for me to attend Cassidy as a sophomore. It would, of course, be my decision, but she knew I'd make the right one. Not Cassidy. The very thought of it struck fear in my young and unenlightened heart. Smart rich kids, they go to Cassidy, and I was neither one. But Mom had a way of getting her way when it comes to these kinds of decisions, meaning I had no choice. I got into Cassidy by the skin of my teeth. My first year can best be described as 9 months of terror, offset by the tiniest glow of confidence and pride only by the last hour of the last day of the last class. My weekly ritual that first year was laying on my living room couch in my blazer and tie early in the morning before chapel, crushed with gnawing anxiety and doubt, sometimes literally shaking, pleading with my mother to call John Marshall High School and get me in and out of Cassidy. Just try to make it through the week, Benji. If you feel the same way on Friday, I'll call John Marshall. Luckily, that day never came. As I learned how to study, my days at Cassidy became a bit brighter for my junior year, so by the time I graduated, I carried the pride of accomplishment that I'd made it through Cassidy. Every difficult step was a piece of the mosaic that would give me the pattern of self-discipline, achievement, and critical thinking that became the rock-solid foundation for almost every area of my life. I carried the skills and love of learning from Cassidy into my undergraduate and graduate studies. I remember calling my dad when I told him I was a Phi Beta Kappa. I heard him quietly weeping with joy over the phone, a certain gift from what I learned at Cassidy. I don't think it's any hyperbole to say that whatever I've been able to accomplish academically, professionally, sometimes spiritually, came from the foundation I received at this school. Cassidy gave me the vision to develop the essence of my own truth, to make a difference for my family, organizations I led, my country, and the world. I felt there was nothing I couldn't accomplish because I had the tools from Cassidy. I feel that way today. But I want to tell you something. Accomplishment certainly has its rewards. I found that those rewards came as a byproduct of one simple word: contribution. To your families, your communities, your school, and to yourselves. Don't ask yourself what you can receive from this school. Find out what you can give it. And to all those around you, it's not necessary to be a great executive or government official or statesman or scholar. Just be the best kid, the best you possible right now. Don't wait. Your future will find you. Each of you today, here this morning, is a leader of one, and sometimes a leader of many. But always think of yourself as a leader, because you are. People are watching you, especially if you're fortunate enough to have Cassidy attached to your name. Just remember who you are and what you represent. And remember that development and the maintenance of your character will always be more important than anything you can achieve. There is no place for egotism in the character equation. I know it, I've been there, I've done it all the wrong ways, till finally the right way appeared. There is no right way to do a wrong thing. Our job in this lifetime is not to shape ourselves into some ideal that we imagine we ought to be, but to find out who we really are already and become all of it we can be. Explore your own passion and follow it as far as it will take you. even to the dark places that talent may lead. And I found for me that it was at those times, and there were many, that continued to be also, that I was most fearful, that I grew the most, sometimes kicking and screaming. I remember that quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, "You must do the thing you fear. Do what you're afraid you cannot do." I wish I could tell you there was an easier way, but I found that you just don't get big rewards for small efforts. Find your own truth now and live it bravely. Playing it safe is rarely safe. I've tried that approach too. In fact, I even invented new and ingenious ways to fail. But with faith in a higher power and the foundation I received here, my failures took me places I never imagined, all good, but I didn't know it at the time. There was not one fear in my life that I had that came true, not one. A young man who I first met at Cassidy faced these same kinds of challenges. When I came to Cassidy, I was a real outsider. And for those of you that feel that way, I feel it for you. I had loneliness to add to my fear of making it through academically. That boy accepted me immediately and became my friend. And we're still best friends today. His name is Chris Carey. He was the captain of the cross-country team. He ran so fast, he looked like a stallion. Thanks to Chris, I lettered, even as slow as I was. "Ben, I'm going to win this race for the team," he told me at conference down in Houston. "All you have to do is run as fast as you can. You'll have no competition." And he was right. And I followed that advice my whole life, creating my own professional positions, armed with the Cassidy Foundation and what Chris told me. Chris wanted to become a doctor, but it was very difficult for him. He struggled, he kept at it, he literally would never give up. Any normal person would have done it. It took him a few years, but in the end, he achieved his goal and he became one of the most respected surgeons in this city. When I see Chris, who happens to be right there behind me, I remember, had it not been for Cassidy, we would have never met. And I'm sure he would agree that much of what he gained here set him on that path. Another friend of mine named Mark Robertson, who's a prominent attorney in this city, helped me win the Oklahoma Creativity Prize. In 2006, he called me up. He said, "Hey, Benny," call me Benny, "I happen to know that the governor of Oklahoma's got a lot of money he wants to spend to celebrate Oklahoma, the 100th anniversary of Oklahoma statehood. What do you think Disney could do with that?" I said, "Well, Mark, it's a great idea, and since we're an idea company, let me see." Mark deserves the Creativity Prize, not me. It was the first time in the history of the company that we'd ever celebrated a state. We'd always do countries, international. So it worked out, again, thanks to Mark. One of the most difficult challenges for me is to somehow convey to your bright, shining faces this morning, you students now at Cassidy, the gift you have in your hands. Celebrate this gift, understand it, and most important, earn the opportunity you've been given. A Cassidy education will take you places you've never been before, and someday, when you're my age, you'll look back thinking and thanking your parents and their good judgment that they gave you one of the most important gifts of your life. Use your good judgment, grasp it with all your mind and your heart, right here, right now, from my heart to yours. Thank you very much.